It is my 65th birthday, a day I once thought would be filled with warmth, laughter, and family. Instead, the air in the dining room feels heavy, almost staged. Balloons float lazily against the ceiling. The smell of roast chicken clings to the walls, and yet silence dominates the table. Birthdays are supposed to mark joy, but tonight feels like a funeral without the coffin. As I lower myself into my usual seat, my eyes catch something unusual. Beneath the silverware, there's an envelope yellowed at the edges, almost as if it had been waiting for years to be found. My name is written across the front in a handwriting I know as well as my own. It's hers, my wife's looping script, the same hand that wrote me love letters 40 years ago. Only this time her letters are jagged, rushed, as if scratched out in secret. I pick it up slowly, tracing the curves of her pen, but when I look across the table, she avoids my eyes. She's pouring wine into the glasses, her hands steady, her expression unreadable. For a moment I wonder if I'm imagining things. We haven't exchanged written notes in decades. Why would she leave me this now? Inside the envelope lies a folded sheet, brittle and faintly scented of lavender, the perfume she used to wear when we were newly married. The scent nearly crushes me. Memories flood back, the way she used to leave tiny notes in my lunchbox, how her perfume clung to my shirts after we embraced. But the warmth of those days is gone. What's left is a gap, 3 years of silence between us. 3 years of cold dinners, empty conversations, and a marriage that survives only in appearance. The letter doesn't start with "Dear" or "My love." It begins bluntly. "You will never know the truth because you are powerless." My hands tighten around the paper. Powerless. That word slices deeper than any insult. I look up at her again, but she's smiling faintly at the guests as if she said nothing. My daughter chats idly about her work. My grandson bangs a fork on his plate. The laughter feels foreign, detached from the storm brewing in my chest. The weight of betrayal presses on me. Why would she write this? What truth? My pulse quickens as I glance back at the loops of her familiar handwriting. I can't deny it, it's hers. And yet when I clear my throat and ask softly, "Did you leave this for me?" her eyes meet mine with a flicker of something colder than denial. "No," she says flatly before turning her gaze away. A chill runs through me. Either she is lying or someone has copied her hand perfectly. Either way, the stakes are higher than I dare admit to the family seated around me. At 65, I'm no stranger to mortality. I've lived through heart scares, hospital nights, and funerals of friends. But nothing feels as dangerous as the possibility that the woman I've shared my life with is hiding something sharp enough to cut through decades of trust. The envelope, the handwriting, the scent of lavender, they're all pieces of a puzzle I never asked to solve. But tonight it seems the puzzle has chosen me. And as I fold the letter shut, sliding it back beneath my plate, a promise forms quietly inside me. I will find out the truth. And when I do, it won't just change this night, it will change everything. And that was only the beginning. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The candles flicker as the dinner plates arrive, their golden light casting shadows that stretch and dance across the walls. Roast chicken, mashed potatoes, glazed carrots, dishes prepared with care, though the taste feels secondary to the tension that hangs in the air. I take a sip of water, but it does nothing to ease the dryness in my throat. My wife sits at the other end of the table, her posture elegant, her smile controlled. To anyone else, she looks like the perfect hostess, refined, gracious, unshaken. But I know her too well. The slight twitch in her fingers, the way her jaw tenses as she chews, tells me that beneath the mask she's unsettled. She hasn't looked at me once since I asked about the letter. The guests chatter, unaware of the storm beneath the surface. My daughter shares a story about her office. My grandson clumsily spills juice, drawing laughter. It should be an ordinary family dinner, a birthday celebration. Yet I feel like I'm sitting in the middle of a courtroom, waiting for judgment to fall. Finally, my wife raises her glass. Her voice is calm, but sharp enough to slice through the room. To my husband she begins, and everyone quiets, their glasses lifted. I brace myself, hoping foolishly for words of kindness, a gesture of reconciliation after years of distance. Instead, she delivers the verdict. For 65 years he has lived in this family. But let us not forget, he has always been powerless. The word lands like a hammer. Powerless. My grip on my fork tightens until my knuckles turn white. Around the table, a ripple of nervous laughter spreads, some guests unsure whether it's a cruel joke or a truth too sharp to swallow. My daughter glances at me, her face pale, as if silently asking if I'll protest. I don't. I remain still, my face neutral. Silence has its own way of speaking. Inside, though, memories twist and collide. I think of the nights I worked double shifts to pay for this very house, the mornings I skipped breakfast so the children could eat. The years I bore the weight of debt, of sickness, of disappointment, not with powerlessness but with endurance. And now on my birthday she reduces my life to that single word. I glance at her again, but she's smiling faintly, savoring the discomfort she's created. Why would she do this in front of everyone? It isn't just humiliation. It feels like a performance, as if she wants the whole room to believe I'm insignificant. A neighbor leans over, offering a nervous toast. Well, here's to many more years. The laughter resumes, forced and shallow. Plates clink, silverware scrapes, but the mood has shifted. I chew slowly, though the food tastes like dust. Then, something odd happens. As I reach for my jacket draped over the chair, I feel a weight in the pocket that wasn't there before. My hand slips inside, brushing against a folded piece of paper. My pulse quickens. I wait until no one is watching, then slide it out just enough to glimpse the words. Ask about the house on Willow Street. My breath catches. The handwriting is different this time, sharper, less familiar, as if written in haste. I fold it quickly and tuck it back into my pocket before anyone notices. My heart pounds against my ribs. Who placed it there? Why now? I glance around the table. Guests are laughing again, wine flowing, but suddenly every face looks suspicious. Did one of them slip it into my pocket when I wasn't looking, or is someone here trying to help me, warning me of something I've long ignored? I force myself to remain calm, sipping wine as though nothing has changed, but inside the word echoes Willow Street. It stirs a memory faint but persistent, a promise my wife and I once made long ago when we were struggling to pay rent. A conversation about dreams, about a small house on a quiet street that could one day be ours. But why now? Why in secret? I set my glass down and look across the table once more. My wife is laughing at something my grandson said, her face serene. But her hand trembles ever so slightly as she lifts the fork to her mouth. And in that tremor, I see it, she knows. She knows exactly what Willow Street means. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The dinner winds down, but the unease does not. Plates are cleared, coffee is poured, and conversation drifts into smaller pockets of laughter and chatter. I sit quietly, the weight of the letter in my pocket pulling at my thoughts like an anchor. My wife hasn't acknowledged me once since her cruel toast. Every glance she gives skips over me as though I'm a ghost haunting my own home. Just as I begin to rise, my daughter brings a small box from the sideboard. "Dad, this came earlier today," she says softly, setting it in front of me. "No name on it. Just addressed to you." The box is unassuming, wrapped in plain brown paper tied with twine. It looks like something plucked from a bygone era, simple, almost rustic. I untie the knot, peel away the paper, and reveal a square velvet case, the kind jewelers use for necklaces or rings. My hands hesitate. Jewelry at 65, who would send me that? I open it slowly. Inside rests a single silver key, nothing else. No note, no explanation, just a key. The room feels suddenly smaller. A key, so ordinary an object, yet in this moment it feels extraordinary. It gleams under the chandelier's light, polished but worn at the edges like it's been used often in the past. My fingertips brush the cold metal, and a shiver runs down my spine. My daughter peers over my shoulder. "What's it for?" she asks. "I don't know," I murmur, though the words taste like a lie, because deep down a memory stirs. The ribbon tied around the box, faded blue, is identical to the ribbons my wife once used to bundle our love letters when we were newly married. The scent of faint lavender lingers too, just like the envelope earlier. Coincidence, or something carefully orchestrated? My wife finally speaks, her voice light but tinged with something sharp. "Probably nothing, just some prank." She waves a hand dismissively, her eyes never leaving the key. For the briefest moment, I catch a flicker of recognition in her gaze. She knows. I slip the key into my pocket beside the folded note. The two objects press against me, the secret message and the strange key, as though they belong together, puzzle pieces from a box I never chose to open. The evening winds down. Guests leave. One by one, coats are gathered, cheeks kissed, doors closed. When silence finally settles over the house, it is not peace, but a silence that thrums with hidden meaning. My wife busies herself with the dishes, her back turned to me. I can hear the clinking of plates, the steady rush of water, the stubborn refusal to look in my direction. I sit at the table, staring at the empty velvet case. An old folk saying drifts into my mind. One my grandmother used to repeat: "Keys are promises. They open not just doors, but truths." As a boy, I laughed at her superstitions. Now, holding this key, I no longer feel like laughing. I rise, step into the kitchen and set the box on the counter beside her. Do you know who sent this? My voice is calm, almost too calm. Her hands still for a moment, water running over her fingers. Then she resumes scrubbing. I told you, she says, flatly. It's nothing. But her voice betrays her, a quiver slight but undeniable. I study her in silence, the weight of 3 years of distance between us, pressing down harder than ever. Once we could read each other's thoughts with a single glance. Now even her lies feel like walls built higher and higher. I slip the key back into my pocket, but in my chest a decision hardens. I will not let this go. Whatever door this key unlocks, whatever truth she is hiding, I will find it. The house is quiet, save for the clatter of dishes. Outside, the wind rattles against the windows, a hollow sound that makes me shiver. I walk toward the living room, each step echoing louder than it should, the floorboards creaking as though protesting the secrets buried beneath them. I pause, my hand brushing against the folded note again. Ask about the house on Willow Street. Willow Street. The key. My wife's trembling. The connections are too strong to ignore. And as I lower myself into the armchair, staring at the fire dying in the hearth, I realize one truth above all: tonight was never meant to be a celebration. It was meant to be a beginning. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The fire has burned down to a faint glow, but I remain in the armchair staring into the embers. The silver key is heavy in my pocket, though it weighs nothing at all. Beside it rests the folded note, its words etched into my mind. Ask about the house on Willow Street. Both objects press against me like reminders that the past is no longer content to stay buried. Behind me, I can hear her movements in the kitchen, dishes clattering, the steady rhythm of water, the occasional sharp intake of breath. She doesn't come in to sit with me, doesn't wish me good night. 3 years ago, such distance would have been unthinkable. We used to end every evening side by side, even in silence. But the silence then had been warm, the kind that grows from comfort. Now it is cold, an empty chasm that began the night we stopped speaking of what mattered. It began with something small. She started sleeping in the guest room, claiming my snoring kept her awake. I didn't question it, after all, marriage has its seasons. But then meals grew quiet. Her laughter, once so free, became scarce. Even our daughter noticed, asking me once if Mom was mad at you. I told her no. I lied. For 3 years, we lived like polite strangers in the same house. She cooked, I repaired the leaky faucet, we exchanged words about bills and weather, but nothing more. The intimacy we once shared gone. And I, perhaps out of pride or fear, did nothing to bridge the gap. Now, as I think of the letter and the key, I wonder if that silence wasn't just emotional distance. Maybe it was cover, a space in which she could build walls I'd never thought to question. I rub my temples, the memories coming sharper now. I remember her locking the desk drawer one night, her fingers fumbling with the key when she thought I wasn't watching. I remember her avoiding questions about bank statements, brushing them off with a laugh that didn't quite reach her eyes. At the time, I chalked it up to stress. Now I'm not so sure. The clock ticks past midnight. The house is too quiet. Even the wind outside has died, leaving only the sound of my own breathing. I rise slowly, my knees aching from the long sit, and glance toward the hallway. The door to the guest room is closed, a strip of light visible beneath it. She is awake then. Awake and avoiding me. I move toward the old cabinet by the stairs, opening it carefully. Inside is a box of mementos I haven't touched in years. Photo albums, postcards, scraps of a life built together. My fingers brush over an old Valentine's card, her handwriting cheerful and round. You are my strength. The irony burns. Among the mementos, I find something stranger, an old newspaper clipping folded neatly. It reports on a property auction from years ago, the words Willow Street circled in red ink. My chest tightens. The clipping is old, maybe 20 years. Did she keep this hidden all along? I sink into a chair with the clipping in one hand, the silver key in the other. 2 objects from 2 different times connected by one address. My wife, once my partner, now the keeper of secrets I was never meant to discover. I remember something else, a superstition my father used to tell me. A house can keep secrets better than people can. He said it whenever we passed by the old abandoned home in our town, its shutters closed like sealed lips. As a child, I thought it nonsense. Tonight, I'm not so sure. My heart pounds as I fold the clipping back and slide it into my pocket. I can't confront her yet, not without knowing more. The silence has lasted 3 years. A few more nights won't kill me, but I will not remain in the dark much longer. The embers in the fireplace crackle faintly, collapsing into ash. I whisper to the empty room, to the ghosts of promises long broken. I'll find out what you're hiding. And as the silence deepens again, I realize that silence isn't just absence. It speaks. It has spoken for 3 years, and it is telling me there's danger ahead. Silence has its own way of speaking. Morning creeps in through the curtains, pale light spilling across the room like a reluctant witness. I sit at the kitchen table with a cup of black coffee, staring at the silver key I've set down before me. It gleams softly, catching the sun, an ordinary thing that feels like it carries the weight of centuries. My wife enters the kitchen dressed neatly as always, her hair pinned back, her perfume faintly lingering in the air. Lavender again, the same note from the envelope, the same fragrance that clings to the past. "Morning," she says flatly, reaching for the kettle. "Morning," I echo, my voice rough from a night without sleep. For a long moment, there's only the sound of water pouring, the clink of a spoon against ceramic. I decide to test the silence. I slide the key forward, letting it scrape gently against the table's surface. "Do you know what this opens?" Her back stiffens. She doesn't turn around. "No," she answers quickly, too quickly. "Where did you even get that?" "Birthday gift," I reply evenly. No card, no name, just this. Her hands tremble slightly as she sets down her cup. The porcelain rattles against the saucer. She turns, then her face carefully arranged into indifference, but her eyes betray her. They dart toward the key, linger for a fraction too long, then snap back to me. I lean back in my chair, watching her. Strange thing to give a man on his birthday, don't you think? "It's probably nothing," she says again, repeating the same words from last night. But her voice cracks ever so slightly on nothing. That's when I know. She recognizes it. She knows exactly what it opens. I sip my coffee, letting the silence draw out. She hates silence when it carries meaning. It forces truths into the air. Finally, unable to bear it, she moves to the window, opening the curtains wider than necessary, as though more light could drown out suspicion. I don't press further, not yet. Instead, I make a note of the trembling, the cracked word, the darting eyes. These are signals, small but unmistakable. Later that morning, I step outside to fetch the mail. The neighborhood is quiet, the sound of birds mingling with the distant hum of traffic. As I open the box, I notice an envelope tucked between the bills. No stamp, no return address. Someone slipped it in by hand. Inside, a single sheet of paper. One line: "Do not trust her with Willow Street." The handwriting is different again, sharper, more deliberate than the note in my pocket. My pulse quickens. Whoever is leaving these messages knows me, knows her, knows the truth. I fold the paper quickly, slipping it into my jacket before she sees. As I turn back toward the house, I see her at the kitchen window watching me. Her face is calm, but her hands are gripping the curtain tightly. The day drags on in uneasy quiet. She busies herself with chores, moving through the house like a shadow. I keep my eyes on her, noticing more small signals. The way she flinches when the phone rings, the way she locks the desk drawer before stepping out of the room, the way her lips press together when I mention anything remotely tied to the past. It's like a language I'd forgotten we once shared, except now the words are warnings. That evening, as I sit in the living room, she joins me unexpectedly. She sits across the room, hands folded neatly in her lap, her expression unreadable. Then, in a voice too calm, she says, "You really shouldn't waste your time chasing things that don't matter." I meet her eyes, like Willow Street. The blood drains from her face. She opens her mouth, then closes it again. For the first time in years, I see fear flicker there, real fear. She recovers quickly, standing and heading toward the stairs. "You're imagining things," she mutters her back to me. But I know what I saw. The silence of the past 3 years has broken, and the signals are clear. She is hiding something, and it's tied to Willow Street. And I intend to uncover it. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. 2 nights later, I find myself standing in the same dining room, but the occasion is different. My daughter has invited a few friends over, turning what was meant to be a quiet evening into another family gathering. I didn't protest. In fact, I welcomed the distraction, though my thoughts remain heavy with letters, keys, and whispered warnings. The table is once again set with care. Glasses shimmer under the light of the chandelier, bowls of steaming food, release scents of garlic and herbs, and laughter fills the air. To anyone else, it would seem like an ordinary dinner. But beneath the surface, tension crackles like a storm waiting to break. My wife sits opposite me, dressed elegantly in a dark blue dress, her pearls catching the light. She speaks lightly with the guests, her tone sweet, her smile flawless. But every time her gaze brushes over me, I see the steel beneath the charm. I wonder if anyone else notices how she avoids my eyes, how her fingers linger a second too long on the stem of her glass. The conversation drifts easily, work, children, memories of vacations. I sip my wine, letting their words fade into background noise. My mind is elsewhere, circling around Willow Street, around the tremor in her voice, around the warning note that told me not to trust her. And then suddenly, her voice cuts through the room. "A toast," she declares, rising to her feet with a grace that commands attention. Instantly, the table quiets. She lifts her glass, her smile broad and polished. To my husband she begins, and all eyes turn to me. For a fleeting second, I allow myself hope. Maybe, just maybe, she'll offer words of kindness. Maybe she'll set aside whatever venom she's been storing and acknowledge the years we've endured together. But her words come sharp as a blade. To a man who has always been here in body, but never in strength. To the one who has stood by silently powerless while life moved forward without him. A stunned silence fills the room. Her words hang heavy, heavier than the clinking of glass, heavier than the heartbeat pounding in my chest. Powerless. Again that word. I grip my glass tightly, feeling the stem press against my palm. My daughter's face turns pale, her lips parting as if to speak, but she remains silent. A neighbor shifts uncomfortably in his chair, clearing his throat. Some of the guests force small, nervous laughs as though it must be a joke. But it isn't a joke, it's deliberate. I keep my face calm, my body still. Inside, I feel a fire rising, anger, humiliation, but also something stronger, a decision forming steady and clear. I raise my glass slowly, meeting her gaze across the table. "To endurance," I say quietly. My voice is calm, but my eyes hold hers. To what survives when strength is measured in silence. For the briefest moment, her composure falters. A flicker crosses her face, doubt, perhaps even fear. But she quickly masks it, smiling again, and the guests, desperate to ease the tension, echo the toast with clinking glasses. I sip my wine, the bitterness coating my tongue. Around me, conversation resumes awkwardly, but the moment lingers. The word powerless burns in the air, impossible to erase. Later, as the evening winds down and guests prepare to leave, one lingers behind. An older man I don't recognize well, a friend of my daughter's colleague perhaps. As coats are gathered and goodbyes exchanged, he slips close enough to whisper in my ear. "You don't deserve that," he mutters, his voice low, urgent. He presses something into my hand, a folded slip of paper. Before I can respond, he's gone, stepping out into the night with the others. I unfold the paper under the table. Just 3 words written in hurried script. "Look deeper, fast." My pulse quickens. Who is this man? How does he know? And what does he mean by fast? As the door closes behind the last guest, I glance across the room. My wife is smiling faintly as she clears the glasses, but her eyes, when they finally meet mine, are cold. She thinks she's won with her toast, with her public humiliation. But I know now she's afraid of something, and whatever it is, it's about to come to light. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The door shuts on the last guest, leaving behind the faint echo of laughter that doesn't belong to this house anymore. I stand in the hallway, coat still draped over my arm, staring at the slip of paper the stranger left me. Look deeper, fast. 3 words, but they feel heavier than the silver key in my pocket. In the kitchen, I hear her humming softly as she stacks the glasses into the sink. It's the same tune she used to sing when our daughter was a child, only now it sounds hollow, almost mocking. I move slowly toward the dining table, every step deliberate, the paper crumpling in my fist. The room still holds the ghost of her words, powerless, spoken with a smile delivered like a verdict. The humiliation lingers in the air, even though the guests are gone. I lower myself into a chair, the wood creaking under my weight, and stare at the empty wine glass she used. A faint lipstick stain remains on the rim, bright red against the crystal. Proof of her performance, her act of control. She enters with a stack of plates, her movements elegant, precise, as though nothing unusual happened. "Well," she says lightly, "that was a pleasant evening." "Pleasant?" I don't respond. Silence is my weapon now. She glances at me, her brow arching. "You're awfully quiet." "I'm listening," I say softly. Silence has its own way of speaking. Her hand still for the briefest moment, a plate hovering in midair before she resumes. "Don't start," she mutters, her voice sharp-clipped. But it's too late. The dinner, the toast, the stranger's warning, they've all collided into something I can no longer ignore. I rise from the chair, moving toward her. She steps back slightly, instinctively, though she masks it with a laugh. "What are you doing?" "Just looking," I reply. "At you, at the woman who calls me powerless." Her smile wavers. "You're imagining things again." I don't argue. Instead, I walk past her into the hallway and open the drawer by the sideboard. Inside, as I suspected, is the velvet case from my birthday. Empty, save for a faint trace of lavender. I hold it up, turning back to her. "Why did you pretend this didn't matter?" "I told you," she says quickly. "A prank." But her voice is trembling now. Her eyes dart to the case, then to my pocket where the key rests. I press further. "And what about Willow Street?" Her face freezes, the color drains from her cheeks. "I don't know what you're talking about," she whispers, but the lie is too fragile, too transparent. Before I can push again, a knock rattles the door. Sharp, urgent. We both freeze. She sets the plates down too quickly, one nearly slipping from her hands. I step to the door, opening it cautiously. No one stands there, just the night air, cool and heavy. But on the doormat lies another envelope, stark white against the dark wood. I pick it up, closing the door behind me. My wife hovers nearby, her breath shallow. I tear the envelope open. Inside is a photograph. It shows her, my wife, standing in front of a small, weathered house. The Willow Street sign is visible in the background. She isn't alone. Beside her stands a man I don't recognize, his arm around her shoulders. My stomach twists. "Where did you get that?" she snaps, lunging forward to snatch it, but I pull it back, holding it out of reach. "Who is he?" My voice is calm, but it carries the weight of years unsaid. She shakes her head furiously. "It's not what you think." "Then tell me what it is." She doesn't answer. Her silence says more than words ever could. I tuck the photo into my pocket, next to the key, next to the warning. 3 objects, 3 truths circling closer to each other. Her face is pale now, her composure shattered. For the first time I see fear in her eyes, not because of what I know, but because of what I might discover next. And in that moment I realize the real aftermath of her toast isn't humiliation. It's the unraveling of a secret she thought would stay buried forever. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The photograph burns in my pocket, its edges pressing against my thigh as if it wants to be acknowledged again and again. I can't escape it, the image of her, my wife, standing with a stranger in front of a house I don't remember. Willow Street. The name now echoes louder than ever, beating like a drum inside my skull. The house is quiet, though it doesn't feel like silence. It feels like something holding its breath, waiting for me to make the next move. My wife has gone upstairs without a word, her steps hurried, uneven. I remain at the dining table, the key set before me, the photograph hidden away, the slip of paper still clenched in my fist. "Look deeper, fast." I smooth the note against the table, reading the words again. Urgency drips from them. Whoever left it, the stranger at the party, the unseen hand that placed the envelope at my door. They want me to uncover something. And soon. I hear movement upstairs, drawers opening, a faint thud. She's searching for something. Maybe the photo, maybe the key. Maybe she knows she's losing control of whatever story she's tried to keep hidden. I focus on the photograph, studying it in the dim light. The house is small, its paint peeling, the windows shadowed. But there's something familiar about the porch railing, the cracked step at the bottom. I dig into memory, pulling at threads I'd forgotten, a conversation decades ago when we were broke and desperate. She had spoken of a place where we might start over, a modest house with space enough for dreams, but I had dismissed it then as fantasy. Yet here, it is real, undeniable, with her standing proudly in front of it. Not with me, but with another man. I push back from the table and pace the room, my mind racing. Who left these clues? Why now? If they wanted to hurt her, why not expose everything outright? Why feed me pieces of the puzzle one at a time? The thought chills me. Maybe this isn't just about her betrayal. Maybe it's about me, about drawing me into something larger, forcing me to face what I ignored all these years. I return to the envelope that carried the photo. It feels heavier than just paper. I turn it upside down and shake it gently. A second slip falls onto the table. I unfold it with trembling fingers. It reads, "The truth was signed in your name." My breath catches. Signed in my name. My hands grip the note, knuckles white. Forgery contracts. Something legal. My mind flashes to the locked desk drawer, the way she always guarded it. Could she have forged my signature? The mainstream fact cuts through my thoughts. I remember reading once that handwriting experts can tell a forgery by the pressure points of the pen, the way ink pools at hesitation marks. They say it's nearly impossible to forge a lifetime of handwriting perfectly. And yet the letter I found on my birthday bore her familiar loops. Could she have learned to copy me? Or worse, could she have practiced it for years? The idea makes my stomach churn. I stand abruptly, sliding both notes and the photo back into my pocket. The key rests in my palm, cold and solid. Whatever Willow Street is, it holds the answer. And if something was signed in my name, I need to know what. I move toward the stairs, my steps heavy, deliberate. She's waiting at the top, her silhouette framed by the dim hallway light. Her face is pale, her lips pressed tight. "You're still chasing ghosts," she says, her voice low, trembling with something she's trying to disguise as annoyance. I hold up the key. "This isn't a ghost." Her eyes flash just for an instant, and then she turns away, retreating into the bedroom. The door closes softly but firmly, like the shutting of a vault. I stand there in the hallway staring at the closed door, my pulse thundering in my ears. She knows I've seen too much, and I know I can't stop now. The paper's message is clear. The truth isn't just hidden. It has my name stamped onto it. And if that's true, then my entire life might not belong to me anymore. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The morning begins in silence, but not the kind that comforts. It's a silence sharpened by suspicion, the kind that cuts each word before it's spoken. I sit at the kitchen table, the silver key resting beside my coffee cup, glinting under the pale light streaming through the window. The photo and the notes are hidden deep in my jacket, but I feel their weight as if they're pressing against my ribs. My wife enters the kitchen, her hair pinned perfectly, her perfume faint but familiar. She moves with her usual grace, but there's tension in her shoulders. She avoids looking at the key. I take a slow sip of coffee, waiting, then finally break the silence. Tell me about Willow Street. The words hang in the air like smoke. Her hands freeze over the bread knife. She forces a laugh, quick and brittle. Willow Street. What are you talking about? I study her face, the faint tremor at the corner of her mouth, the way her eyes dart away. I place the key firmly on the table between us. The metallic clink is louder than it should be. This and the photograph. You can't pretend you don't know. Her eyes snap to the key, widening before narrowing again. She recovers, but not fast enough. A prank, she insists. Someone's trying to confuse you. Someone slipped a note in my pocket, I say evenly. Someone put an envelope on our doorstep, and both lead to you. Her lips press into a thin line. She grips the knife tighter, her knuckles whitening. I can see the effort it takes for her to steady her voice. You're imagining things. You've always been too trusting, too easy to manipulate. That's why you believe these games. Her words sting, but they don't shake me. If anything, they fuel me. And what about the man in the photo, I ask quietly, standing beside you on Willow Street? For the first time, her composure cracks fully. The knife slips from her hand, clattering against the counter. She turns away quickly, bracing herself against the sink. I don't owe you an explanation, she whispers, but her voice trembles. I rise slowly, my chair scraping against the floor. After 40 years, after everything we built, you don't owe me an explanation. She doesn't answer. Instead, she stares out the window, the morning light making her face look older, harsher. I step closer, my voice low. Why did you write that letter? Why tell me I'm powerless? She spins around suddenly, her eyes blazing. Because you are, she snaps. Because you've spent your life letting others make choices for you, standing by while things happened. And I... She cuts herself off, swallowing hard, realizing she's said too much. And you, I press, stepping closer. Her face pales. It doesn't matter. But it does matter. Every word, every tremor, every silence matters. The photograph, the key, the forged letters, all threads leading back to this kitchen, to the woman standing in front of me. I let the silence grow heavy between us. She shifts uncomfortably, then suddenly moves to the cabinet, pulling open the locked drawer. She rifles through it quickly, but her movements are frantic, desperate. What are you looking for? I ask. She slams the drawer shut and whirls around, her breathing unsteady. Stay out of it, for your own good. The phrase chills me more than anything else she said. For your own good. It sounds less like a warning and more like a threat. I step back, letting her words sink in. For years I thought silence protected us, but now I see it only gave her room to hide. I glance again at the key on the table, then back at her pale, trembling face. The confrontation hasn't given me answers, only more questions. But I know one thing, I can't stop now. Whatever Willow Street holds, it's more than just a secret. It's the truth she's most afraid of me finding. And that makes it exactly where I need to go. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. After the confrontation in the kitchen, the day unfolds in fragments. She retreats upstairs, shutting herself behind the bedroom door. I remain in the living room, surrounded by shadows, the key heavy in my palm. I can't shake the words she hurled at me, because you are powerless. They echo like a curse, but also like a clue. I close my eyes, forcing myself to sift through memory, searching for the first time Willow Street ever entered our lives. Slowly, like an old photograph developing in water, the past resurfaces. It was more than 30 years ago, during the hardest season of our marriage. I had lost my job at the factory, the bills piled up, and we were months behind on rent. We argued often quietly so the children wouldn't hear, but the tension bled into every corner of the house. One night, over a dinner of rice and thin soup, she mentioned a house she had seen, small, run-down but affordable, on Willow Street. We could start over there, she said, her eyes alight with something fierce. It's not much, but it could be ours, no landlord breathing down our necks. At the time, I dismissed it. We can't afford to dream right now, I had told her. We can barely afford to eat." She had fallen silent, then her spoon tapping gently against the bowl. I thought it was the end of it. But now holding the key, I wondered, did she act on that dream anyway without me? The memory spirals further. A few months later, I remember seeing her slip out late one evening saying she had errands. She came back with dust on her shoes, her hair mussed, and an odd light in her eyes. I didn't press her. I thought she needed her space, but maybe she had gone to Willow Street. I rise and dig through the old cabinet by the stairs, pulling out a box of forgotten papers, receipts, old bills, scraps of life. Among them, I find something I had overlooked before: a faded flyer advertising property auction, Willow Street lot. The date matches the same year she had spoken of the house. My breath catches. Had she bought it or tried to? I trace the faded ink with my finger, and another memory surfaces sharper now. The day I was admitted to the hospital for chest pains. She had stayed by my side the first night, but the second night she disappeared for hours. She returned with tired eyes and restless hands. When I asked where she had been, she simply said, "Taking care of things." At the time, I believed her. Now I see it differently. Perhaps she wasn't just taking care of things. Perhaps she was signing something. Perhaps she was forging me into a future I didn't even know existed. The thought chills me. I lean back, pressing my palm to my forehead. It makes sense now: the letter on my birthday, the words "Powerless," the notes urging me to dig. If she forged my name decades ago, if she hid a house from me all these years, then our life together isn't just cracked. It's built on a lie. But there's another layer that unsettles me more. Who was the man in the photograph beside her, a partner in this hidden venture, a confidant I never knew existed? The memory of her slipping out late at night feels sharper now, edged with betrayal. I recall a superstition from my childhood. An old neighbor used to say, "A house remembers who it belongs to." At the time, it sounded like folklore. But what if Willow Street remembers? What if the walls of that house hold the truth she's kept buried? I close the box of papers, my hands trembling. I know what I must do. I have to go to Willow Street. I have to see it with my own eyes, to walk through its rooms, to hear what silence has been trying to tell me for years. The memory of her dream, once innocent, now feels poisoned. She didn't just dream of a house. She built a secret life around it. And when I uncover it, I know her face will turn pale again, not because of my weakness, but because of the strength she never expected me to find. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The decision to confront Willow Street grows in me like a fever. I barely sleep that night, tossing and turning as memories and suspicions twist together into a tangled web. By morning, my mind is set. I need answers, and waiting will only make the silence louder. At breakfast, the air is taut. She sits across from me, perfectly composed, slicing her toast with precision, sipping her tea as though nothing has changed. But I see the shadows beneath her eyes. She didn't sleep either. We are two actors in the same play, both pretending the script hasn't shifted. I set my coffee cup down and speak evenly. "I'm going to Willow Street today." The knife clatters against her plate. She freezes, her eyes narrowing before she forces a laugh. "You're chasing nonsense." "No," I reply, holding her gaze. "I'm chasing the truth." Her mask slips for a moment. I see panic flicker across her face, then vanish. "Do what you want," she says sharply, but her hand trembles as she lifts her cup again. I leave the table without another word, the key cold in my pocket. The day is gray clouds thickening overhead, the kind of weather that presses down on you like a warning. I walk through town with a sense of purpose I haven't felt in years, yet each step feels heavier, as though unseen eyes are watching. At the bus stop, I notice a man in a cap sitting a few benches away. He keeps his head down, but when I glance again, he's staring straight at me. I board the bus quickly, heart pounding. As the bus rattles through familiar streets, memories flood me. I remember her words from last night: "Stay out of it, for your own good," but they only steal my resolve. When I reach Willow Street, I step off and immediately recognize it from the photograph. The same cracked step, the same peeling paint. The house looms at the end of the street, weathered and tired, yet holding a presence that feels alive. I approach slowly, every sound amplified: the crunch of gravel, the rustle of leaves in the wind. I grip the key in my pocket, my palm slick with sweat. The front gate creaks as I push it open. A black cat darts across the yard, disappearing beneath the porch. An old folk belief comes to mind: cats guard secrets, they said. I almost laugh at myself for thinking it, but the unease lingers. I fit the key into the front door. It turns smoothly, too smoothly, as if it's been waiting for me all along. The door opens with a groan, releasing a breath of stale air. Dust motes dance in the dim light streaming through the cracked blinds. Inside the house is eerily intact. Furniture sits as though abandoned midlife, a table with chairs, a couch draped with a faded blanket, photographs lining the mantel. But not of me, not of our family. They're strangers, faces I don't recognize, frozen in frames that look decades old. My chest tightens. She lived another life here, or someone did with her. I step deeper into the house, each floorboard groaning under my weight. A newspaper lies on the table, yellowed with age. The headline is from 20 years ago, the date circled in red, the same year she spoke of the house. My eyes scan the page until I find it an article about property transfers. My name is there, clear as ink, signed on a dotted line. But I know I never signed it. My hands tremble as I clutch the paper. The message was right. The truth was signed in your name. Suddenly, a noise from behind startles me, a door closing softly. I whirl around, heart racing. For a moment, I see a shadow slip past the window outside. Someone is watching. I bolt to the door, but the street is empty. Only the wind stirs, carrying with it the sound of laughter from a distant house. I stand there gripping the doorframe, my breath ragged. Who else knows about this place, and why are they pushing me toward it now? I retreat inside, my mind spinning. Every discovery brings more danger, more proof that the life I thought was mine has been forged, twisted, reshaped. When I finally leave Willow Street, locking the door behind me, I know I can't keep pretending. The confrontation with her is inevitable now. She has lived another truth, one that bears my name but not my life. And the escalation has only begun. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The house on Willow Street stays with me long after I leave it. Even as I walk home, the smell of dust and mildew clings to my clothes. The echo of the empty rooms reverberates in my ears. But what haunts me most are the photographs on the mantel, strangers smiling where my family should have been. Whoever they were, they lived in the space my wife once dreamed about, maybe with her, maybe without me. Maybe. When I return home, the air feels thicker than usual, as though the walls themselves are holding their breath. She's in the living room, flipping through a magazine with forced nonchalance. I don't say a word. I walk past her, straight to the desk drawer she always keeps locked. This time, I don't bother asking for the key. I pry it open with the edge of a screwdriver. The lock snaps with a metallic crack. She startles, dropping the magazine. "What are you doing?" Looking deeper, I say flatly. Inside the drawer lies a stack of envelopes, receipts, and faded letters bound with twine. I sift through them, quickly, my pulse racing. Old bank statements with numbers that don't match our accounts. Legal documents stamped with my name but not my hand. Each page is another layer of deceit, another wound I didn't know I carried. And then I find it. A photograph tucked into the back of the drawer. It's her again. My wife. Younger, perhaps 15 years ago. She's standing in front of the Willow Street house. Her smile wide, genuine, a smile I haven't seen in years. Beside her, the same man from the earlier photograph. His arm is draped around her shoulders, casual but intimate. My breath catches. My fingers tremble around the photo. I stare at it until the edges blur. "Who is he?" I ask, my voice low, dangerous. She remains silent, her eyes fixed on the floor. I raise the photo higher. "Who is he?" Her lips part, but no words come. She clutches the armrest of the chair, her knuckles whitening. The silence stretches until it suffocates us both. Finally, she whispers, "You don't want to know." "I need to know," I snap, slamming the photo onto the table between us. The sound makes her flinch. She shakes her head, tears glistening but unshed. "If you knew, it would destroy everything." I lean closer, my voice firm. "It already has." Her face pales, and for the first time she looks older to me, fragile, almost broken. But I don't let myself soften, not now. I glance again at the photo. The man looks vaguely familiar, though I can't place him. His features tug at some corner of memory like a face glimpsed in a dream. A business associate, a neighbor, or something far worse. I remember reading once about how our brains sometimes recognize faces even when we can't consciously recall them. A psychologist called it cryptomnesia, memory hidden beneath the surface, surfacing only in fragments. That must be why the sight of him stirs unease I can't explain. I tuck the photo into my pocket. She watches me with wide eyes, fear etched across her face. "You can't go there again," she whispers. I turn to her, my voice calm but cold. "I already have." Her breath hitches, and in that instant I know she understands the secrets are no longer safe. I head upstairs, leaving her in the silence she created. In our bedroom, I pull the photo out again, studying every detail. The house, the railing, the cracked step. Her smile so free, the man's hand on her shoulder. My stomach churns. I remember a saying from my grandmother. Photographs don't lie, but they don't tell the whole truth either. Perhaps that's the cruelest part. The image shows me betrayal, but not the story behind it. Still, the evidence is undeniable. She stood with another man in front of the house that should have been ours, and she kept it hidden all these years. As I slide the photograph back into my pocket, my hands clench into fists. The silence of 3 decades is unraveling one thread at a time, and soon the whole fabric will fall apart. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. Night settles heavy over the house, pressing against the windows like a secret trying to get in. I sit in the armchair, the photograph clutched in my hand, the fire in the hearth long extinguished. The silence feels different tonight, not just tense, but expectant, as though the house itself knows something is about to happen. It does. A knock rattles the front door, sudden and sharp, cutting through the quiet. I freeze my pulse, quickening. It's past 10, too late for neighbors, too late for couriers. My wife doesn't stir from upstairs. Perhaps she hears it and chooses to ignore it. Perhaps she's afraid of who might be standing outside. I rise slowly, each step echoing louder than it should, and open the door. A man stands there. Tall, broad-shouldered, his coat damp from the evening mist. His face is lined with age, his hair streaked with gray. But his eyes, they're sharp, unwavering, and when they meet mine, I feel a jolt of recognition. "Good evening," he says, his voice low, steady. "You don't know me, but once you helped me." I grip the edge of the door tighter. "Who are you?" He glances over his shoulder, scanning the quiet street, then steps closer. "Not here. May I come in?" Something in me hesitates. Caution, instinct. But another part, the part desperate for answers, nods. I step aside, and he enters, bringing with him the faint scent of rain and tobacco. We move to the kitchen. I set the photograph on the table. His eyes flicker to it instantly, and I see recognition there. "You know him," I say. It isn't a question. The man exhales slowly, pulling out a chair. "Yes, that's Robert." The name means nothing to me, but my chest tightens anyway. He continues. "Years ago, when I was down on my luck, you gave me work. Small jobs, cash when I needed it. You didn't know it, but you kept me afloat. And in return," he gestures to the photograph, "I saw things I thought you should have known." "Why didn't you tell me?" My voice is sharp, angrier than I intended. "Because she warned me," he says simply. "Told me if I ever breathed a word, it would ruin me. And back then, I couldn't afford to be ruined." The admission sinks like a stone in my gut. I sit across from him, my eyes fixed on his weathered face. And now, why come now? He leans in, lowering his voice. "Because secrets rot and hers is spreading too far. That house on Willow Street, it isn't just a house. It's where she kept everything she wanted to hide. Money, papers, and him." My breath hitches. "Robert?" He nods slowly. "They called it an investment, but I knew better. It was more. Much more." The room feels smaller, the air heavier. My wife's footsteps creak faintly upstairs, but she doesn't come down. Maybe she knows he's here. Maybe she's waiting to see what I'll do. The man leans back, his expression grim. "You were never powerless. She just made you believe you were. That was her way of keeping control." The words hit me harder than I expect. My chest tightens, not from anger alone, but from something deeper, the realization of how carefully she built the illusion. I glance again at the photograph, the man named Robert, the house that haunts my every thought. "What do I do?" I whisper. The man's eyes soften with something like pity. "You dig, you face her. And when the time comes, you show her you're not powerless." He rises, pulling his coat tighter. At the door, he pauses, looking back at me. "Be careful. You're not the only one she's lied to." Then he's gone, swallowed by the night. I close the door slowly, my hands trembling. His words echo in my ears louder than the rain beginning to fall outside. Not the only one she's lied to. I turn back to the photograph on the table. My wife's smile burns into me. Robert's arm around her shoulders feels like a blade twisting deeper. I thought the visitor would give me peace. Instead, he's handed me a truth too heavy to hold. And I know now the storm hasn't even begun. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. I don't sleep that night. I sit in the living room with the photograph spread on the table, the silver key beside it, and the stranger's words still ringing in my ears. "You're not the only one she's lied to." The rain beats against the windows until dawn, but my mind refuses rest. I sift through every memory of her absences, every tremor in her voice, every lie disguised as silence. Robert, Willow Street, documents signed in my name, a life parallel to mine built under my nose. When the first light creeps through the curtains, I rise with a stiffness in my bones and head to the kitchen. She's already there, making coffee as if nothing has happened, her back turned to me. I place the photograph on the counter beside her. She freezes mid-stir, the spoon clinking against the mug. Slowly, she sets it down, her hands trembling. "Tell me," I say quietly. Her eyes flicker to the photo, then away, as though it might burn her to look too long. Where did you get that? It doesn't matter, I reply. What matters is that you're in it, with him, at Willow Street. Her lips press into a thin line. For a moment I think she won't speak at all. Then, finally, her voice emerges low and unsteady. His name was Robert. The name tastes bitter now that it has shape. Who was he? She exhales shakily, a partner, in more ways than one. The words hit me like a fist. My chest tightens, and for a moment I can't breathe, but I force myself to remain still. Why? Her hands clutch the edge of the counter. Because you weren't enough. The admission cuts deeper than any blade. My jaw clenches, but I don't lash out. I let the silence press on her instead. She shifts uncomfortably, her eyes darting to the window as if searching for escape. It wasn't love, she says finally. Not like with you. It was survival. He had money connections. He helped me get that house. Without him, we would have lost everything. I study her face, the lines etched there, the years of secrets. So you built a life with him in shadows while I worked myself to the bone, believing we were in this together. Tears glisten in her eyes, though she refuses to let them fall. You don't understand. You never wanted to know. You left everything to me. Her words sting because they're half true. I did let her handle the finances. I did trust her without question. Maybe that trust was my weakness. Still, the photograph speaks louder than her excuses. You stood beside him smiling like he was your husband, I say bitterly. She flinches. It wasn't like that. Then what was it? She doesn't answer. Instead, she turns away, gripping the counter as though it's the only thing holding her up. Her silence is its own confession. I pick up the key from the table, holding it up between us. And this? Did he give you this too? Her eyes widen, and for a moment I see pure fear. She doesn't answer, but she doesn't have to. The truth is etched in her expression. I slip the key back into my pocket, my resolve hardening. You may have built your secrets in shadows, but I'll drag them into the light. She shakes her head quickly, desperately. Don't, please. If you keep digging, you'll regret it. Maybe, I say, but silence has already cost me too much. Her face crumples then, and she collapses into a chair, burying her face in her hands. I never meant for you to find out this way, but you meant for me never to find out at all. The words hang heavy, final. I leave her there, broken at the table, and retreat to the living room. My hands tremble as I clutch the photograph once more. The partial reveal has come, but it's only enough to deepen the wound, not to heal it. I know now that she betrayed me not just with secrets, but with another man. And yet I can feel in my gut this isn't the whole truth. It's only the beginning of something darker. I thought I was safe, but I was wrong. The phone rings mid-morning, a shrill sound that slices through the uneasy quiet of the house. I'm in the living room, staring at the photograph again, memorizing every cruel detail when the sound jolts me back. My wife stiffens in the kitchen, her shoulders tense, but she doesn't move toward the phone. I do. The old handset feels heavy in my palm. Hello? Mr. Harris. The voice is clipped professional. A man. This is Attorney Malcolm Price. I believe you may not remember me, but I handled some of your property documents years ago. I need to speak with you regarding the Willow Street house. My pulse quickens. I glance toward the kitchen. She's frozen eyes, white, her hand gripping the counter. She knows exactly who's on the other end. Yes, I say carefully. What about it? There's a pause. According to our records, you purchased that property nearly 20 years ago. Your signature is on the deed. But there have been irregularities. My throat tightens. Irregularities. Documents transferred ownership back and forth several times. Some of them don't quite match your official handwriting samples. I assumed you authorized your wife at the time, but now... His voice trails off. Forgive me for being blunt, but I've had reason to believe certain papers may have been forged. My knees weaken. I sink into the armchair. Forged. The word reverberates in my skull. I never signed anything for Willow Street, I manage, my voice shaking. I see the lawyer, replies, his tone grave. Then I suggest you look closely at the paperwork. Whoever forged your name may have tied you to obligations you don't even know exist. Taxes, loans, transfers. The room spins. I grip the armrest to steady myself. Why are you telling me this now? Because he says quietly, your wife contacted my office last week asking about liquidating the property. Something felt off. I decided you had a right to know. My breath catches. Liquidating. She wanted to sell it, cash it out before I even knew it existed. I'll send you copies of everything, he continues, certified to your name only. Please review them carefully and be cautious. If forgery is involved, this could escalate legally. We exchange brief formalities before he hangs up, leaving me clutching the receiver with trembling hands. From the kitchen, her voice cuts in, strained and sharp. Who was that? I stare at her, the lawyer, about Willow Street. The color drains from her face. She grips the counter harder, her knuckles bone white. You shouldn't talk to him. He doesn't know what he's saying. Doesn't he? My voice hardens. Because he told me you tried to sell the house last week. Her lips part, but no words come. For a moment, the facade shatters completely. Fear floods her expression, raw and unguarded. Then, just as quickly, she masks it, forcing a brittle laugh. He misunderstood. You always jump to conclusions. But I know better. I know her too well. I set the phone down slowly. You forged my name, didn't you? Her silence is my answer. I rise, moving toward her. For years, you've called me powerless, but you've been using my name, my identity, to build whatever this is. Tears well in her eyes, though she fights them back. I did what I had to do. To survive, I snap, or to betray me. She doesn't answer. The silence between us is louder than any scream. A faint memory surfaces the night I was hospitalized when she disappeared for hours. The lawyer's words confirm what I feared. She signed those papers then. While I lay weak in a hospital bed, she wrote my name into a life I never chose. I stepped back, the weight of it pressing down on me. You didn't just lie, you stole my very voice. Her lips tremble. If you knew everything, you'd hate me forever. I already do, I whisper. The words slice the air sharper than I intended. She staggers as though struck, then turns away, clutching the counter for balance. I leave her there, moving back to the living room, collapsing into the armchair. My chest feels heavy, my breath uneven. The lawyer's warning loops in my mind. If forgery is involved, this could escalate legally. The house feels different now, not just broken, but dangerous. Every shadow carries suspicion. Every silence hides a truth waiting to surface. And I know one thing with certainty, this isn't just a family betrayal anymore. It's a crime. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The house is still, but the silence inside me is gone. It's been replaced by a storm that refuses to settle. The lawyer's words circle my head like vultures, forged signatures, irregularities, liquidation. She didn't just betray me emotionally, she stole my name, my hand, my very identity. By evening, I can't hold it in anymore. I gather the documents I've pulled from her locked drawer, the photograph, the key, and spread them across the dining table like evidence in a trial. The room feels colder, the shadows deeper, as though even the walls know what's coming. She enters carrying a tray of tea, her expression guarded but calm. When she sees the spread of papers, she stops dead. The tray rattles in her hands before she sets it down. We need to talk, I say, my voice flat but heavy with resolve. Her eyes flicker to the papers, then to me. About what? About Willow Street. About Robert, about the forgery. Her face pales, but she tries to recover with a laugh. You've let your imagination run wild. Those are old papers, meaningless. Meaningless. I slam my palm against the table, the sound reverberating. My name is on deeds I never signed. My wife photographed with another man in front of a house I never owned. A lawyer calling me about irregularities I never caused. Tell me again how that's meaningless. She flinches at the fury in my voice. For years I stayed quiet, endured her coldness, let silence keep the peace. But tonight, the silence shatters. Our daughter, drawn by the noise, steps hesitantly into the room. What's going on? She asks, eyes darting between us. This doesn't concern you, my wife snaps, but her voice cracks. It concerns all of us, I counter. I hold up the photograph. Tell her who this man is. Tell her what you did. My daughter stares at the photo, confusion clouding her face. Mom. For the first time, my wife falters completely. She sinks into a chair, her hands trembling. It's not what it looks like, she mutters. Then explain, I demand. Her lips move, but no words come. The silence stretches, heavy, suffocating. My daughter's eyes widen with dawning horror as she looks between us. Did you forge Dad's name? She whispers. My wife buries her face in her hands. I had no choice. The admission falls like a stone into water, rippling through the room. My daughter gasps softly. I sit back, my chest tight, but I press on. No choice. You had every choice. You chose betrayal. You chose lies. I did it to protect us. She bursts out suddenly, her voice breaking. The house was supposed to be security, a safety net. Robert helped me make it happen. Without him, without those papers, we could have lost everything. My daughter shakes her head, tears welling in her eyes. You lied to us, to him, for years. My wife's shoulders slump, her body sagging as though the weight of the truth is finally crushing her. I thought I could keep it hidden. I thought he would never find out. I let out a bitter laugh. And you thought you could keep calling me powerless while you built your little empire on my stolen name. She doesn't respond. She just stares at the table, the documents, the photo. Our daughter steps closer, her voice trembling. Dad, what are you going to do? I don't answer right away. I glance at my wife, her pale face, her silence now louder than her lies. For decades, she believed she held the power. But tonight, with my daughter as witness, that illusion crumbles. Finally, I say the truth will come out. No more secrets, no more forged names. My wife lifts her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. If you go through with this, if you expose everything, you'll destroy this family. I meet her gaze, my voice steady. You destroyed it the moment you chose betrayal over trust. The silence that follows is unbearable, but it's no longer mine to carry. It belongs to her now. I thought the confrontation would give me closure. Instead, it's torn the last veil away, revealing wounds deeper than I imagined. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The night after our confrontation, the house feels uninhabitable. My daughter retreats upstairs, shaken and silent, her trust fractured. My wife locks herself in the guest room, her muffled sobs filtering faintly through the door. I remain in the living room, surrounded by the evidence of betrayal spread across the table. Documents, photographs, the key pieces of a puzzle I can't stop touching, as though the answers might seep into me through skin alone. But one question haunts me louder than the rest. What else has she hidden? I decide I can't wait. I take a flashlight and climb into the attic. The air grows thick and stale as I push open the hatch. Dust swirls in the beam of light and the smell of mothballs and wood rot fills my lungs. The attic has always been her domain. She sorted the boxes stored, the memories sealed away, the things we never used. I never questioned it. Until now. Cardboard boxes line the beams, some labeled, some bare. I kneel before one marked winter clothes, but when I open it, sweaters lie only on the surface. Beneath them, carefully hidden, are folders tied with twine. My pulse quickens. I untie the bundle and spread the papers across the dusty floor. Receipts, contracts, statements. Each one bears my signature. But as I trace the ink, my chest tightens. These are not my strokes. They're imitations. Convincing but off in small ways, a loop too wide, a letter pressed harder than I would ever write. The dates make my stomach turn. Many are from the year I was hospitalized with chest pains. While I lay tethered to machines too weak to lift a pen, she was forging my hand, binding me to obligations I never agreed to. My throat tightens, but I force myself to keep digging. At the bottom of the folder, I find a receipt for a property tax payment on Willow Street, paid in cash, signed with my name. My knees buckle. I sit back hard on the floorboards, clutching the paper with trembling hands. The realization crashes over me. The house was never just a dream or a hidden nest egg. It was a real functioning property maintained in my name with money I never knew we had. The mainstream fact floats to the surface of my mind, one I once read in a magazine. Property taxes don't vanish. Even unpaid, they leave a trail that can resurface years later. If she kept paying them, then the trail exists, and it leads straight back to me. And then something even stranger catches my eye. Tucked inside the receipt envelope is a small scrap of paper. On it, scribbled in hurried handwriting, are 3 words, "Not safe anymore." My breath hitches. Who wrote this? My wife, Robert, or the stranger who's been leaving me notes? I sit in the dust, staring at the words, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The attic feels heavier, pressing down on me, the weight of years of lies stacked above my head. Then I remember a peculiar detail, the handwriting experts' rule about hesitation marks. I lift the scrap closer to the light. The strokes are uneven, pressed hard in some places, faint in others. Not her hand, not mine, someone else. A chill runs through me. Someone else has been inside this secret all along. I shove the papers back into the folder, slip the most damning receipts into my jacket, and climb down my legs, shaking. Back in the living room, I lay the receipt and the note on the table. The words, "Not safe anymore," glare up at me. My wife emerges from the guest room, her eyes swollen, her face pale. She sees the papers spread before me and stops cold. Her mouth opens, but no words come. I hold up the receipt. "How long?" My voice is low, steady. Her lips tremble. "Don't," she whispers. "Please don't." But her plea tells me everything. She knows, she remembers, and she's terrified. The attic gave me more than a clue. It gave me proof that her betrayal wasn't an accident, but a deliberate life built in shadows, funded with my stolen name. And worse, it told me someone else is involved, someone who knows the truth isn't safe anymore. I thought I had uncovered the heart of her secrets, but this was only the beginning of something far larger. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The scrap of paper, "Not safe anymore," keeps me awake through the night. I sit in the living room with the lamp burning low, the receipts spread across the table, the silver key gleaming faintly beside them. Each object feels like a piece of a puzzle designed to break me, and yet I can't stop fitting them together. By morning, I decide to search again, not the attic this time, somewhere closer, somewhere she thought I would never look. The guest room. She's gone out shopping, or so she claims. Her handbag is missing, and I watch from the window as her figure disappears down the street. The house is mine for the moment. I head upstairs to the room she's claimed as her own these past 3 years, the room where silence built its strongest walls. The air smells faintly of lavender, the same perfume that clung to the letter on my birthday. The bed is perfectly made, the dresser neat, everything in its place. Too neat, too careful. I begin with the wardrobe. Clothes hang in precise rows arranged by color, but at the bottom beneath a folded blanket I find a locked tin box. My heart pounds as I pry it open with the screwdriver I brought from the kitchen. The lock snaps. Inside lies another collection of papers older than the attic stash, letters yellowed with age, some written in her hand, some in another's. Robert's. I realize with a sick twist of recognition. His handwriting is bolder, heavier, unfamiliar, yet intimate. I pick one at random. I handled the bank transfer. He'll never know. Everything is in his name now, just as you wanted. The words blur as my vision swims. My stomach churns. I shuffle through more letters, my hands trembling. If he asks questions, remind him he's weak. He'll believe it. Once the papers are signed, we'll have the leverage we need. He'll never think to challenge it. I drop the letters onto the bed, bile rising in my throat. For years they worked together, Robert and my wife, building a life beneath my feet, manipulating me with silence and deception. She didn't just forge my name, she weaponized my trust. Then I find the most damning document yet. A contract transferring survivorship rights for the Willow Street house. My name is scrawled at the bottom. Only it isn't mine. It's a forgery again. But this time a detail leaps out: the witness signature. Robert's. My chest tightens. I sink onto the edge of the bed, clutching the paper. She didn't just sign for me. She had him stand beside her, pretending to witness a lie written in my hand. I recall something obscure I once read in a legal column: witness signatures can sometimes be more valuable than the main ones because they confirm intent. If Robert signed even fraudulently, it tied him directly to her scheme. And yet Robert is gone now, dead perhaps, or vanished, which means she's the only one left holding the weight of it, unless someone else has inherited his role. The thought chills me. I shove the letters and contracts back into the box and carry it downstairs, my hands shaking. When she returns later carrying grocery bags, she stops dead in the doorway at the sight of the box on the table. Her face drains of color. Where did you find that? In the room you locked me out of for 3 years, I reply coldly. The room where you built your world of lies. She sets the bags down with trembling hands. You don't understand. I understand enough, I snap. I hold up the contract. Robert signed as your witness. You built everything on my stolen name. You told me I was powerless while you held power built on fraud. Tears well in her eyes, but her voice is sharp. I did it for us, for security, for the future. For us, my laugh is bitter hollow. You did it with him. Her shoulders collapse and she sinks into a chair, burying her face in her hands. The silence between us is no longer just heavy. It's poisonous. I stare down at the documents, the letters, the evidence of a betrayal that spans decades. The clue is undeniable. Now, this wasn't just a secret affair or a hidden house. It was a calculated theft of my life, signed and sealed with my stolen name. And the worst part? Someone else knows. Someone who left me that warning note. Someone still watching from the shadows. I thought I was pulling threads to unravel her lies. Instead, I've opened a door into something deeper, darker, and far more dangerous. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The letters and contracts from the tin box spread across the dining table like the pieces of a crime scene. I pace the room, my hands trembling, my chest tight, while she sits across from me, pale and silent. Her eyes follow me, but she doesn't speak. It's as though the weight of decades has finally crushed the strength out of her. I slam my hand down on the table, rattling the silverware left from lunch. How long were you planning to keep this from me? Until I was dead? Until you could sell everything with my name and bury me in silence? She flinches, but doesn't answer. Answer me. My voice cracks, the fury I've held back for years spilling free. Her lips part, trembling. I never wanted it this way. You wanted it exactly this way, I spit back. I hold up one of Robert's letters, my hands shaking so badly the paper quivers. You used me. You let him write these words while you sat beside him. You forged me into a fool. Tears fill her eyes, but then something changes. Her expression hardens, sharpens, until I see not regret but defiance. Yes, she says suddenly, her voice cutting, because you were too weak to do it yourself. The words slam into me like a blow. I stagger back, my chest heaving. Too weak. You couldn't keep a job. You couldn't provide security. Every time I looked at you, I saw a man who let life decide for him. I was tired of living in fear of poverty. Robert gave me a way out. He gave us both a way out. Her voice rises trembling, but fierce, a confession and accusation rolled into one. I did what you couldn't. And if I had to forge your name, if I had to lie, if I had to build it on shadows, I did it because you were powerless. The word lands again, sharper than ever, powerless. My daughter, drawn by the shouting, rushes into the room. She stops in the doorway, her face stricken. Mom? Dad? What's happening? I turn to her, my voice breaking. Your mother betrayed me. She betrayed us all. My wife rises to her feet, her hands clenched into fists. I saved us. You think those nights you spent working overtime paid for this house, for our daughter's college, for everything we have? No, that was Willow Street. That was Robert. That was me. The admission shatters something inside me. I feel the blood drain from my face, my body trembling with a fury I can barely contain. My daughter begins to cry. Mom, how could you? For a moment I think my wife will soften, but instead she straightens her chin, lifted high, her tears wiped away by pride. Because he would never have had the strength. Someone had to act. Someone had to take control. He never could. The room spins. My vision narrows. For decades I believed silence kept us together. For decades I trusted her. And now she stands before me shouting that I was never enough. I slam the contract down in front of her. You think forging my name made you powerful? It only made you a thief. Her eyes blaze. And what does that make you? A man who couldn't even see what was right in front of him. A man too weak to fight for his own life. The breaking point comes not in the shouting, but in the silence that follows. My daughter sobs softly in the doorway, and the house feels like it's collapsing around us. I can't breathe. I can't think. For the first time in my life, I don't recognize the woman I married. She's not the girl who once slipped love notes into my lunchbox. She's not the mother who soothed our daughter's fears at night. She is a stranger, ruthless, cold, and unrepentant. I step back, my body trembling. You've destroyed everything. And for what? A house full of lies. A man who's gone. Money that means nothing now. Her face twists, and finally the tears she's been holding back spill over. But I don't feel pity. Not anymore. The breaking point has come. Whatever we were, whatever we pretended to be, it ends here. I thought her words would crush me. Instead, they have broken the last chain holding me down. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The day after our fight, the house is eerily still, but it's the kind of silence that throbs with aftershocks. My daughter hasn't spoken to either of us. She lingers in her room, the muffled sound of her crying drifting through the thin walls. My wife moves like a ghost, careful, deliberate, avoiding my eyes. I sit at the dining table, the papers spread before me, and make a decision. Enough hiding, enough whispers. This has gone beyond family shame. It is fraud. It is theft. It is crime. I pick up the phone and dial the lawyer Malcolm Price. My voice shakes, but I force strength into it. I need to meet with you, today. Within hours, I'm sitting in his office, the air heavy with the scent of old leather and paper. He examines the forged contracts, his brow furrowed. This is serious, Mr. Harris. If these signatures are proven fraudulent, it's criminal, not just civil. And given the witness signature here, he taps Robert's name with his pen. It implicates more than just your wife. Robert is gone, I murmur. Gone, he repeats, eyes narrowing. Then she holds the weight alone. Unless, he pauses, sliding another paper toward me. Unless someone else has continued his role. The thought chills me. The stranger's warning, the notes, the photograph left on my doorstep, all of it points to unseen hands still pulling strings. Malcolm leans forward. I'll file an injunction to freeze any attempt to sell Willow Street. That will buy us time. But you need to be prepared. If this becomes public, it will explode. Police court, family scandal. I nod slowly. The weight of it presses hard on my chest, but I know there's no turning back. That evening, I return home to find my wife waiting in the living room. She's composed, almost unnervingly calm. You went to see him, she says, flatly. Yes. Her eyes darken. Do you know what you've done? You've invited wolves into this house? Do you think the law will protect you? They'll devour us both. I step closer, my voice sharp. No, they'll only devour the lies you built. Her composure cracks. You don't understand. If this goes to court, they'll come for everything, the house, the accounts, even our daughter's inheritance. Do you want her to suffer because of your pride? The accusation stings, but I stand firm. It isn't my pride, it's your crime. She trembles, her hands clenching into fists. For a moment I think she'll strike me, but instead she hisses, "Robert warned me this would happen, that the past would eat us alive." The name sparks rage in me again. Robert is dead. Her eyes flicker. Is he? The words freeze me. She smirks faintly at my expression, then turns away. You think you're pulling the strings now, but you've only made yourself a target. If you dig any deeper, you'll regret it. Before I can reply, the doorbell rings. The sharp chime startles us both. I move to the door, opening it cautiously. Two men stand outside, one in a suit carrying a briefcase, the other in plain clothes, but his presence screams authority. The suited man introduces himself briskly. "Detective Harris, we need to ask some questions about Willow Street." My wife stiffens behind me. I feel her breath catch. "Of course," I say, stepping aside. The men enter, their eyes scanning the house, the tension thick. They sit at the table examining the documents Malcolm prepared. The detective flips through them, his face grim. "We've received reports of irregular property transfers, forgery, tax evasion. Your name is all over these, Mr. Harris." My heart pounds. I never signed any of it. He studies me for a moment, then nods slowly. "Then we'll need handwriting samples, and we'll need to speak with your wife." Her face drains of color. She opens her mouth, but no words come. The detective closes the folder. "If what we suspect is true, this isn't just fraud. This is conspiracy, and it doesn't stop with your family." The room spins. Conspiracy. The word is bigger, darker than anything I'd imagined. The major escalation has come, the law is here, the past is alive, and the truth can no longer be buried. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The detectives returned 2 days later, armed with files, photographs, and a calm authority that makes the walls of my home feel like they're closing in. My daughter sits stiffly in the corner, pale and silent, while my wife paces like a caged animal. The table is once again covered in documents, the weight of decades spread out in black ink and forged signatures. Detective Harris lays a folder in front of us. "We've confirmed the signatures on several of these documents were forged. Not by you, Mr. Harris." His gaze cuts sharply to my wife. "But by you, ma'am." Her face tightens, her lips pressed thin. He flips another page. "We also traced large sums of money funneled through accounts under your husband's name. Withdrawals, transfers, payments, many tied directly to the Willow Street property." My stomach churns, though I already suspected as much. Seeing it written in official records makes it undeniable. And then the detective continues, pulling out a photograph. There's Robert. My wife inhales sharply. The detective sets the photo on the table, the same one I'd already seen. My wife smiling in front of the Willow Street house, Robert's arm around her shoulders. But this time there's another detail, the date stamped faintly on the corner. 12 years ago. Long after I thought the dream of that house had died. Robert Jameson Harris says, former real estate broker, disappeared nearly a decade ago under suspicious circumstances. Records suggest he and your wife collaborated on multiple property transfers. We believe he helped her forge your name for a cut of the profits." My daughter gasps softly. My wife grips the edge of the chair, her knuckles white. Harris leans forward. "The problem is Robert's name also appears on other transactions. One's linked to shell companies still active today, which means either he isn't dead or someone else has continued his work." The room spins, Robert alive or replaced by another shadow. I turn to my wife, my voice hoarse. "Tell them the truth." Her eyes finally meet mine, and for the first time I see the terror she's tried so hard to hide. Tears slip down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to go this far," she whispers. "At first it was just about the house, security, a place that was ours. But Robert, he pushed me. He said if we funneled money, if we kept it hidden, we could be safe forever." "Safe," I choke. "You built a lie on my name. You told me I was powerless while you stole the life I thought was mine." She crumples, sobbing, into her hands. Detective Harris doesn't flinch. "Mrs. Harris, we need to know, where is Robert?" Her shoulders shake. For a long moment, I think she won't answer. Then through her sobs, she whispers, "He's gone." "Gone where?" Her silence is suffocating. "Did you kill him?" Harris presses. She lifts her head sharply, horror flashing across her face. "No, I swear I didn't. He left. He said it wasn't safe anymore. He vanished and I never saw him again." The words twist in my gut. The scrap of paper from the attic, not safe anymore. Robert's last message, or someone else's warning. The detective exchanges a glance with his partner. "We'll need to verify that. But for now, understand this, you're facing charges. Forgery, fraud, conspiracy. You may think you did this for security, but the law will see it as theft." My wife collapses into the chair, sobbing openly now. My daughter covers her mouth, tears streaming down her face. I sit frozen, the storm of decades crashing all at once. The detective gathers the files and closes his briefcase. "We'll be in touch. And Mr. Harris, I suggest you prepare yourself. The truth rarely ends where we think it does. When they leave, the silence that follows is unbearable. My daughter flees upstairs, her sobs echoing. My wife sits broken, her face buried in her hands. And I stare at the empty table, at the ghost of papers that once lay there. The truth is out, the lies are exposed. But instead of relief, I feel only hollow. Because exposure doesn't heal. It only shows how deep the wounds really go. And I know in my bones this isn't over. Robert's shadow still lingers, and the conspiracy stretches further than I can yet see. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. When the detectives leave, the house collapses into silence. Not the heavy, suspicious silence I've grown used to, but a hollow, shattered one. It feels as though even the walls can't bear the weight of what's been spoken aloud. My wife remains at the table, her shoulders hunched, her face buried in her hands. The woman who once carried herself with elegance, who wielded control like a blade, now looks small, diminished, undone. For a moment I almost pity her, almost. Upstairs, my daughter's muffled sobs echo through the ceiling. Each sound pierces me like a needle. She grew up believing our family was solid, if not warm, believing in trust and stability. Now she knows it was all scaffolding built on forged papers and stolen names. I sink into the armchair, my body heavy, my mind spinning. The lawyer's words, the detective's warnings, Robert's shadow hanging over everything. It's too much to hold, yet I can't set it down. Finally, my wife lifts her head. Her face is streaked with tears, her eyes red and swollen. "I never wanted you to know," she whispers. A bitter laugh escapes me. "And you would have preferred I die ignorant, believing I was powerless while you stole my name." She flinches but doesn't argue. Instead, she whispers, "I thought I was saving us." "You weren't saving us," I say coldly. "You were saving yourself." The words hang heavy between us. For the first time, she doesn't try to deny it. The hours crawl by. My daughter eventually comes downstairs, her face pale and drawn. She doesn't look at either of us. She pours herself a glass of water, her hands trembling, then turns to me. "Dad, what happens now?" The question guts me. What happens now? Divorce, prison scandal, splashed across papers. I have no answer that will make her feel safe again. "I don't know," I admit softly, "but we'll face it, together." She looks at her mother, then her eyes full of hurt. "Did you ever think about me, about what this would do to me?" My wife crumbles again, covering her face with her hands. No words, just broken sobs. The silence stretches until my daughter shakes her head and storms upstairs, the slam of her door rattling the walls. I lean back, pressing my hand against my chest, the familiar ache of strain gnawing at me. Stress, this heavy, can break a man's heart. I know I've been close before. I think of a medical article I once read. Intense emotional betrayal can physically damage the heart, triggering stress-induced cardiomyopathy. A broken heart, doctors call it. It seems almost poetic, almost cruelly fitting. I close my eyes and inhale deeply, the weight of years pressing down. Then a memory surfaces. The first time I ever saw her cry, decades ago, when we were young, when we had nothing but each other. She had clung to me, whispering that she'd never let me go, that we'd face every storm side by side. I'd believed her. That memory hurts more than any of today's revelations. When I open my eyes, she's staring at me again. "I know you hate me," she says quietly, "but you'll hate me more if you keep digging." The warning chills me. Even now, after everything, she clings to secrets. Even now, she fears what else might surface. I rise slowly, gathering the papers into a neat stack. My hands are steady, though my heart is not. The truth is already out, I tell her, and I'm not stopping. Her tears flow anew. She whispers, almost inaudible, "Then you'll regret it." The words hang in the air like a curse. I leave her there, broken at the table, and step outside into the cool night. The air tastes sharp, metallic, like a storm is coming. I stand under the dim porch light, clutching the papers, the photograph, the key. The immediate aftermath isn't relief, it's devastation. And yet beneath the wreckage, a strange fire begins to burn, not of rage, but of resolve. Because if the truth has already shattered us, then there's no reason to stop now. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The days that follow are a blur of phone calls, questions, and silences too heavy to break. The lawyer checks in, often preparing for the storm of hearings and paperwork that will soon follow. The detectives come and go, their presence turning our home into something that feels less like a sanctuary and more like an interrogation room. But it isn't just me and my wife who are caught in the wreckage. The betrayal spreads outward, reaching every branch of the family. My daughter avoids us both, keeping to her room, her once bright laughter replaced by a strained quiet. When she finally emerges, it's only to pack a bag. "I can't stay here," she says softly, her voice trembling. "I don't even know who we are anymore." "Sweetheart," I begin, but she lifts a hand. "Don't. I need space. She turns to her mother, her eyes wet with tears. You broke us. I'll never understand why. My wife reaches out, but my daughter steps back, shaking her head. Don't touch me. And then she's gone, the slam of the door echoing through the hall. The silence she leaves behind is unbearable. Relatives begin to call as rumors trickle through the town. My sister's voice on the phone is sharp and credulous. Is it true? She forged your name, built another life behind your back? I can't answer her with more than a weary yes. The pity in her sigh cuts deeper than anger would have. Neighbors avoid us, their greetings shorter, their eyes full of questions they don't dare ask aloud. At the grocery store, I feel the whispers follow me down every aisle. It strikes me that betrayal doesn't just fracture the family at its core, it stains everything around it. Even the lawyer, sympathetic though he is, looks at me differently now. You'll need to prepare for testimony, he says, his tone careful. You'll need to stand strong. The court will want to know if you were complicit or simply blind. Complicit or blind? The words hang heavy. For years I prided myself on being steady, trusting, quiet. Now those very traits look like weakness. Silence, once my refuge, is now my indictment. I think of my daughter again, her face pale as she packed her bag. She deserved better than lies built on shadows. She deserved parents she could trust. At night I hear her absence more than anything. The empty room above mine creaks differently without her weight. The quiet feels like punishment. And yet there is a strange kind of closure forming around her departure. She has chosen not to drown with us. She has chosen her own survival. Perhaps that at least is something I can hold on to. As for my wife, her closure comes differently. She moves through the house like a ghost, her once commanding presence reduced to whispers and shadows. I see her sitting at the table for hours, staring at nothing, her hands trembling. She no longer wears perfume. She no longer hums. She has aged years and days. But when I ask her directly, do you regret it, she cannot answer. She only cries, and her silence tells me all I need to know. Closure doesn't mean healing. Not for her, not for me, not for our daughter. It means accepting the wreckage for what it is. I remember reading once about Japanese pottery kintsugi, where broken bowls are repaired with gold, the cracks highlighted instead of hidden. The idea is that the flaws become the history, the scars a kind of beauty. But as I sit in the ruins of my family, I can't imagine gold filling these cracks. Still, I know the truth, however brutal, has at least freed us from illusion. My daughter will build a life beyond lies. My wife will live with the weight of her choices. And I will finally speak instead of hiding in silence. The closure for others has come at a cost too high to measure. But I soon realized that wasn't the worst of it. The house is quiet again, but it is no longer the silence of secrets. It is the silence of aftermath, hollow, broken, final. My daughter has left carrying her disappointment with her. My wife drifts like a shadow, her eyes always downcast, her words clipped into fragments. The detectives will return, the courts will decide, but here in these walls, judgment has already been passed. I sit in the living room, the fire burning low, the silver key turning slowly between my fingers. So small an object, yet it unlocked not just a door, but decades of lies. A letter, a key, a photograph, ordinary things twisted into weapons that cut my life in two. I wonder how many years I lived blind, believing her silence was protection, believing my endurance was strength. In truth, my silence became her shield, the cover under which she built another world. And when I think of the word she hurled at me again and again, powerless, I finally see what it meant. Not that I lacked strength, but that I surrendered it willingly. There is no undoing what's been revealed, no way to stitch the fabric of trust back together. But perhaps there is something beyond ruin. Perhaps the very act of facing the truth is its own power. I think of my daughter. Though she left in pain, she left with clarity. She will not live in shadows. That at least is a gift carved from betrayal. I think of my wife, broken now, stripped of her pride. I don't know what justice will decide for her, whether she will face prison or exile or only the torment of her conscience. But I know her punishment has already begun. Every day she wakes and sees me still here, not gone, not erased, not powerless. That is the judgment she never expected. And I think of myself. I'm older now, my body slower, my heart more fragile. I have no illusions of rebuilding what was lost, but I do have my voice again. For too long I let silence define me. Now I know silence can be betrayal's accomplice. Tonight I speak to the empty room, to the ghosts of the past that linger in the cracks of these walls. You were wrong, I whisper, my voice steady. I was never powerless. I was patient. I was trusting. And now I am free. The words settle into the air not as anger, but as truth. And truth, even broken, carries its own strength. I remember an old proverb my father once told me, "Justice is slow, but it never sleeps." At the time, I thought it was about courts and laws. Now I see it differently. Justice is also the moment you finally see with clear eyes, even if the sight hurts. I close my eyes, letting the weight of years lift slightly from my chest. The fire pops, sending a small spark into the air, and I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Not happiness, not peace, but resolve. This story began with a birthday. A letter slipped beneath my plate, a cruel word disguised as a toast. It ends here with me holding the key, not just to Willow Street, but to myself. Betrayal has scarred me. Silence has nearly destroyed me, but survival has remade me. And that perhaps is enough. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If it touched you, please subscribe and continue with the next story in the playlist.